Welcome to SATV News. This is Riaz Mahmood with our headlines. Jamaat-e-Islami chief collapses at a stage, continues a speech, vows to continue fighting against fascism and corruption. Mirza Fakhrul warns of rising tensions. BNP leader urges government to expedite elections. Government will be forced to announce the July Charter within this month, says NCP's Nahid Islam. No more godfathers will be allowed to emerge. Now in details. Jamaat-e-Islami chief Dr. Shafiqur Rahman today vowed to continue fighting against fascism. He also said his party will fight against corruption. He made the comments today while addressing the national rally of Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami. During his address, the Jamaat leader collapsed twice but did not stop his speech. The program officially commenced at 2 p.m. with recitation from the Holy Quran at Sohrawardi Uddan, which was teeming with his thousands of party activists from various parts of the country.
আলামিন শহীদ পরিবারের গর্বিত সদস্যবৃন্দ 24 জুলাই যোদ্ধাবৃন্দ তম প্রমাণ হচ্ছে
BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir today urged the interim government to promptly move towards holding elections, warning that the situation is becoming increasingly complicated as time passes. It seems the situation is getting more complicated with each passing day. Those who do not believe in democracy or a society free of exploitation are regrouping once again, he said. Speaking at a discussion titled Expectations of the Mass Uprising and the Path to Democratic Transition in the Country, organized by Ganatantra Mancho at the Jatiyo Press Club, the BNP leader spoke about the nation's democratic future. Mr. Fakhrul urged the government to identify the problems without unnecessary delay and engage in dialogue with political parties. Then move forward towards elections, he added. Referring to the aftermath of the August 5 regime fall, the BNP leader noticed that it had opened a new opportunity to establish a democratic system in Bangladesh. He further stressed the importance of swiftly advancing reforms, the July Charter issue and election-related efforts, asserting that the sooner progress is made, the better it will be for the country. The government may exhume the bodies of 5 people killed during clashes at a National Citizen Party rally in Gopalganj for post-mortems if deemed necessary, said Home Affairs Advisor Jahangir Alam Chaudhary today. Talking to journalists after inspecting the third terminal of Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport in the capital, the advisor said the families of the deceased did not wish to have post-mortems carried out, which is why that was not done. However, if the government considers it necessary, there is still an opportunity to perform the autopsies. He said the entire incident in Gopalganj was broadcasted live by the media, leaving little room for concealment. In response to questions about who was responsible for the deadly clash, the advisor stated that a high-level investigation committee has already been formed. The committee's report will reveal the actual reasons behind the incident, he added. Nahid Islam, convener of the National Citizen Party, has called on the government to announce the July Charter before the end of this month. Failing that, he warned the government will be compelled to do so. The people of Bangladesh know that reform is essential and reform must come first, he said. Nahid made the comments during a rally in Cox's Bazar this afternoon, part of the party's ongoing July March to Build the Nation campaign. He also said no more godfathers will be allowed to emerge in Bangladesh. The march began at 12:30 p.m. from the Cox's Bazar bus terminal and culminated in a rally at the public library ground. Central NCP leaders taking part included Member Secretary Akhtar Hussain, Southern Regional Chief Organizer Hasnat Abdullah, Nasiruddin Patwari, Dr. Tasneem Zara, SM Shujauddin and others. There is no uncertainty regarding the upcoming national election, said Chief Advisor's Press Secretary Shafiqul Alam today. The election will be held in time as announced by the Chief Advisor. A congenial environment will be ensured for the election alongside creating a level playing field for all. The polls will be better than any elections held in the past. While talking about Gopalganj issue, Shafiqul Alam said that the government is doing everything lawfully in Gopalganj after the recent violence there. He said this while speaking to journalists after attending an event titled The Next Wave at the Moinamoti Auditorium of the Bangladesh Academy for Rural Development BARD hosted by Kumilla University. About the national consensus on reforms, Shafiqul Alam said political parties are sitting regularly and all the things are being done swiftly. The curfew imposed in Gopalganj following a series of attacks and clashes surrounding a rally organized by the National Citizens Party has been relaxed until 8 p.m. today. The attacks were carried out on Wednesday by the Awami League and the banned Chhatra League. So far, 5 people have been killed in the violence. The Deputy Commissioner and District Magistrate of Gopalganj, Muhammad Kamaruzzaman, confirmed the news around 11 p.m. on Friday. He stated that the curfew will be relaxed from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday. The district administration announced that the future course of the curfew will be decided after assessing the overall situation in Gopalganj and in consultation with the law enforcement agencies. On Wednesday, violent clashes broke out in several areas of the town in connection with the NCP rally. Following incidents of attack, arson and crude bomb explosions, the district magistrate initially imposed Section 144. As the situation worsened, a curfew was declared from 6 p.m. that evening. Viewers are taking a short break. Stay with us.
আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের গঠন, চারিদিকের সাগর, সেন্ট মার্টিনসের আয়তন সবকিছু মিলে একটা ঘাঁটি করার জন্য আদৌ উপযোগী। আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের গঠন, চারিদিকের সাগর, সেন্ট মার্টিনসের আয়তন সবকিছু মিলে একটা ঘাঁটি করার জন্য আদৌ উপযোগী। আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের গঠন, চারিদিকের সাগর, সেন্ট মার্টিনসের আয়তন সবকিছু মিলে একটা ঘাঁটি করার জন্য আদৌ উপযোগী। আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের গঠন, চারিদিকের সাগর, সেন্ট মার্টিনসের আয়তন সবকিছু মিলে একটা ঘাঁটি করার জন্য আদৌ উপযোগী। আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের গঠন, চারিদিকের সাগর, সেন্ট মার্টিনসের আয়তন সবকিছু মিলে একটা ঘাঁটি করার জন্য আদৌ উপযোগী। আমেরিকাতে আপনি যদি সাব কপলার দলিলও করে দেন সেন্ট মার্টিনস দ্বীপ ফিরে নেবে না। সেন্ট মার্টিনসের
Welcome back. You are watching SATV News. Now, news from abroad. Wounded Palestinians were brought to Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, Gaza on Saturday after Israeli soldiers had opened fire near an aid distribution site. According to the Palestinian officials news network WAFA, 32 Palestinians were killed and tens injured in the attack on a crowd waiting close to a humanitarian aid distribution point in northern Rafah. Eyewitnesses said that they were shot at as they approached the aid distribution point and were surrounded by Israeli army tanks, jeeps and drones. The UN Rights Office said on Tuesday it had recorded at least 875 killings within the past 6 weeks at 8 points in Gaza, run by the US and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and convoys run by other relief groups, including the United Nations. The majority of those killed were in the vicinity of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites, while the remaining 201 were killed on the routes of other 8 convoys. Meanwhile, Syrian leader Ahmed al-Shara called for complete cooperation with a ceasefire on Saturday following bloodshed in a predominantly Druze area that has left hundreds dead. Thanking the tribes for their heroic positions, al-Shara called on them to fully commit to ceasing fire and complying with state orders. During a televised statement, he also said everyone must understand that this moment requires unity of ranks and complete cooperation in order to overcome what Syria is going through. The country's Interior Ministry spokesperson said earlier on Saturday that internal security forces had begun deploying in Swida in southern Syria. Syria's Swida province has been engulfed by nearly a week of violence, which began with clashes between Bedouin fighters and Druze factions before drawing in government security forces that were sent to that area by Damascus. Over 300 were killed during clashes, according to war monitors. The Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group signed on Saturday a declaration of principles to end fighting in eastern Congo, a sign of progress, even as sources briefed on the talks said details needed to be negotiated. The signing by representatives from both sides took place at a ceremony in Qatar that followed months of Qatari mediation after talks began in April. M23, in the latest of a series of uprisings supported by Rwanda, seized Goma, eastern Congo's largest city, in January and went on to make gains across North Kivu and South Kivu provinces. The fighting has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands more this year, while escalating the risk of a full-scale regional war. Several of Congo's neighbors already had troops deployed in eastern Congo when the advance began. Russian forces staged a mass drone attack early on Saturday, setting ablaze at least one multi-story apartment building and killing one resident, said authorities. Odessa Mayor Hennediy Turanakov earlier said that at least 20 drones had converged on the city, a frequent Russian target, and he said at least one multi-story apartment building was on fire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the attack on Odessa injured 6 people, including a child. Russia launched over 30 missiles and 300 drones during its overnight assault that affected 10 regions of the country, he added on Telegram, and reiterated the importance of air defense provision. US President Donald Trump on Friday signed a landmark stablecoin act into law at a White House ceremony, the first federal regulation in this regard. The Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for US Stablecoins Act, or Genius Act, was passed by the US Senate in June and by the House of Representatives on Thursday. The Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stablecoins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the Internet itself, said Trump. The act lays out standards for stablecoins, a kind of digital currency pegged to the US dollar or other fiat currencies. The Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency would undertake overseeing of stablecoin issuance according to the Genius Act. With an estimated market capitalization of around $250 billion, the dollar stablecoins are primarily used as an intermediate asset for trading or a tool of accessing the dollar in countries with hyperinflation or other monetary issues. Meanwhile, Donald Trump reiterated his threat of imposing tariffs on members of the BRICS groups of nations and said the group would end very quickly if they ever form in a meaningful way. When he heard about this group from BRICS, 6 countries, basically he hit them very hard. And if they ever really form in a meaningful way, it will end very quickly, said the US president without naming the countries. He also said he was committed to preserving the dollar's global status as a reserve currency and pledged to never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency in the United States. An international deal has been struck that has allowed Venezuelans deported from the United States and imprisoned in El Salvador to return to their home country in exchange for the release of American citizens and political prisoners held in Venezuela. On Friday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that 10 Americans had been released as a part of the deal. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele also celebrated the deal, saying that all of the Venezuelan deportees detained in his country have been handed over. This exchange was carried out in return for a considerable number of Venezuelan political prisoners, people that regime had kept in its prisons for years, as well as all the American citizens it was holding as hostages, Bukele, a U.S. ally, wrote in a statement on social media. Those individuals are now en route to El Salvador, where they will make a brief stop before continuing their journey home, it added. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva described Trump's tariff threat as unacceptable blackmail on Thursday, saying that Brazil will not take orders from the United States. This came after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose a 50% tariffs on Brazil and called for an end to the trial of the former President Jair Bolsonaro. While addressing the nation in a televised speech, Lula said that Brazil is a sovereign state and interfering in Brazil's judicial system is to interfere with Brazil's sovereignty. He also vowed to take all necessary measures to defend Brazil's economy, including resorting to the World Trade Organizations. As there is no winner in the trade war, Brazil supports multilateralism and cooperates with other countries, Lula said. The tariffs will begin on August 1 if Brazil and the United Nations do not reach an agreement. This is a significant increase from the 10% rate imposed by Trump in April. Microsoft on Friday said it will stop using China-based engineers to provide technical assistance to the U.S. military after a report by a ProPublica sparked questions from a U.S. senator and prompted Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to order a 2-week review of Pentagon cloud deals. The report detailed Microsoft's use of Chinese engineers to work on U.S. military cloud computing systems under the supervision of U.S. digital experts hired through subcontractors who have security clearances but often lacked the technical skills to assess whether the work of the Chinese engineers posed a cybersecurity threat. In a video posted on X on Friday, Hegseth said he was initiating a 2-week review to ensure China-based engineers were not working on any other cloud services contracts across the Defense Department. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Jamaat-e-Islami chief collapses at stage, continues a speech, vows to continue fighting against fascism and corruption. Mirza Fakhrul warns of rising tensions. BNP leader urges government to expedite elections. Government will be forced to announce a July charter within this month, says NCP's Naheed Islam. No more godfathers will be allowed to emerge. You are updated with our top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.